Welcome to Pankinen Financial Perspective with Ashton Pankinen from Pankinen Financial Group. Planning for your financial future means navigating challenges like market volatility, inflation, and retirement income. Pankinen Financial Perspective is here to help by addressing common financial concerns, sharing valuable strategies, and exploring ways you can work toward your financial goals. Now let's get started with Pankinen Financial Perspective.
Hello and welcome to Pankinen Financial Perspective. My name is Ashton Pankinen from Pankinen Financial Group. If you'd like more information about what you hear during our show today, give us a call at 952-873-2703 or visit us online at pankinenfinancial.com. That's PANKONIN financial.com. And while at my website, click on our radio page to check out past shows and to subscribe to our program on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or Amazon Music. And while on my page, click the link at the top to get the latest retirement guide. The great wealth transfer is already underway, and trillions of dollars are moving from one generation to the next. But here's the problem. Too many families are unprepared. Without the right planning, wealth can slip away, family conflicts can rise, and legacies can be diminished. Today, we're going to explore how to bridge the generation gap and make sure this transfer strengthens rather than threatens your family's future. Now, before we dig into today's topic, I want to introduce my co-host, Tony Shore, who's been juggling fantasy football team rosters like it's his full-time job. I just hope the retirement planning is as strong as his wide receiver lineup.
Well, you know it is. You know it is. And
Sure.
I want our listeners out there to know that my fantasy football record is strictly classified information. I know that know that 1 year, one league I'm in gives away a toilet bowl trophy.
Okay.
For the worst record, and I 2 years running. It's a trophy with a roll of toilet paper on the top. Yeah. So that's a real honor. That's, I put that in my trophy case at home. But no, actually this year, all my time is spent. My wife, for the first time, is in a fantasy football league at her work. And so she's like, we need to set my lineup. It's Thursday night, 5 minutes before the first game of the week is supposed to begin. I'm like, what? Give me your phone. Panicking.
Yeah.
But no, it's fun. And yeah, I do have a financial plan in place. And I will say that technically yesterday, was my 59th and a half birthday. So I am officially 59 and a half. And as a financial planner, I wish you folks could see see how Ashton lit up right there. Ashton lit up.
That's a good number to know.
Yeah, it's a good number. Ashton is thinking, let's move that 401k money into an IRA right away.
Somewhere you can get a little advice on it and some help. Yeah, for sure.
That's what you need to do. When you turn 59 and a half, and Ashton knows this, you probably, if you have a good chunk in there especially, you want to move it into an IRA at that point so you have more control and can do a little better things with it. A lot of people don't even know how their money is invested in their 401ks.
Correct.
And so that you have very little control. You don't know necessarily what fees you're paying. So it's smart to work with an independent financial advisor. And I'm not going to name names, Ashton Pankinen, but I know a guy. But Ashton, speaking of 401ks, great wealth transfer is underway. And I'm glad you reminded me of that. The great wealth transfer is huge, isn't it? I mean, that's
really big.
Yeah. And so all this money is transferring from the boomer generation, all the boomers that are retiring. I think 11,200 baby boomers a day are turning 65.
Yep.
A day for the next 4 years. And a lot of them now are on the upper end of that spectrum and passing money along, right?
Yeah, exactly. So over the next couple decades, Tony, it's estimated that 84 trillion will move from baby boomers to their Gen X and millennial heirs.
Wow.
And that's unprecedented.
Yeah. Yeah. And I read that in a Kiplinger article, they had that stat. It's Make sure you've built your wealth. Now make sure your family keeps it was the name of the Kiplinger article. I just wanted to mention that if you wanted to look up some of the stats we're talking about. But Ashton, that's huge. 84 trillion.
Yeah. And that's where it gets complicated, Tony. Many families aren't prepared. And the cultural divide between generation only adds to that challenge of trying to preserve that legacy.
Yeah. That's true. And so it's a staggering number. The boomers have been the powerhouse generation for decades, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Until recently, baby boomers weren't just the wealthiest generation. They were also the largest. Now millennials have surpassed them in sheer numbers, but boomers still hold on to more than half of the nation's household wealth.
Well, and so as boomers retire and step out of the workforce, Ashton, that wealth, it begins to move down the line then, right?
Yeah, correct, Tony. Fortunes they built through the strong salaries and decades of asset growth are now passing to their children and their grandchildren. And that creates a ripple effect, not just inside families, but across the entire economy and wealth management industry.
Oh, sure. It's probably had an impact on you and your clients and the families you work with. And when you put it that way, it sounds like the odds might be stacked against families because it's a lot, right?
Yeah, that's exactly right, Tony. From business succession plans to charitable giving, this is the so-called silver tsunami. It isn't just transfer of wealth. It's going to create economic waves, and that can ripple for years. Boomers want their success to become a legacy, but turning wealth into a lasting prosperity is far easier said than done.
Yeah, I know there are a lot of factors that come into it, taxes and everything else. But what do you mean by that? Explain that to our listeners.
Yeah, so again, we refer to this article in Kiplinger that we talked about here that 70% of families lose inherited wealth by the second generation. And by the third generation, over 90% of families have lost it all.
Wow.
Yeah, it's a well-documented problem. Some people call it the third generation curse.
Yeah, that's staggering. I mean, so if the odds are really that bad, how does a family beat them?
Yeah, to be in that elite 30% rather than that 70% of families, we want to make sure we pass down wealth successfully. And it takes more than just meticulous planning. Don't get me wrong, planning is essential, but on its own, it's not enough. True multi-generational wealth requires multi-generational engagement with all family members.
So I take it by multi-generational engagement with family members and all family members, it sounds like communication is the key and not just the people passing on the wealth need to be into that plan. And I know that's hard for some generations, like the older of the baby boomers, don't talk about money. My grandfather and my dad don't discuss their personal finances with anyone. And I mean anyone. And that's why it made it hard when my grandfather passed. It caused some derision amongst his 4 kids because you need to actually communicate and work together across generations to make it work, don't you?
Yeah, you got it. And it begins with something simple but powerful, just understanding the differences between those generations, the difference between you, your father, and your grandfather's generation on communicating about money.
Yeah. And it goes both ways. You know, your parents, your mom, her mom, her father, your grandparents on both sides. It's interesting. If families need to work together across generations, how does that process even start?
Yeah, lasting wealth starts early with early preparation. So we've got the generational divide. Money is a top concern for just about every American. But now each generation thinks about money is shaped by their shared experiences that they have.
Right. Like the fact that both millennials and Gen X went through the 2008 financial crash.
Correct. Yeah. So Gen X born between 1965 and 1980.
Hey, that's me.
That's the classification there. And then we've got millennials, 1981 to 96, and that's me.
Yep.
Both came of age during the 2008 financial crisis. So that experience has left them feeling financially cautious and sometimes even skeptical. And then you look at Gen Z and the upcoming Gen Alpha, those born after 2013, and their outlook has been shaped by COVID, natural disasters, and then global uncertainty. And so many of them are questioning the value of traditional financial planning altogether.
Sure. Yeah. Gen Zers are tough. I look at my son and his wife. No wonder it's hard to get everybody on the same page. But, you and I are close enough, like you said, Gen X and Gen Z. I think or millennials, I mean. So yep. Gen X and millennials are close enough, like the 2008 financial crisis really shaped a lot of how we feel in the late 80s and the 90s. But then Gen Z is a little different because of COVID and global issues. So it is hard to get everybody on the same page. And hyper cautious millennials, why save Gen X or Gen Zers, and then the baby boomer parents or grandparents. And they, as I said at the beginning of the show, they have a completely different mindset.
For sure.
Right. Hang on to everything and don't talk about it with anyone.
Yeah. And they're great savers. And then you mentioned your son. I think of my nephew. He's like, why should I save? It might not even be there. And it's, again, it's just the experiences of life that they've been through. And so that's the challenge. Building lasting wealth depends on bridging those gaps. Planning isn't just about the numbers. It's a portion of it, but it's more personal than that. Family values and norms often matter just as much because sometimes, and that can be sometimes even more than economic factors there.
So what's the best way for our listeners out there to bridge those gaps?
Yeah, it starts early. You want to teach financial literacy to kids. It's foundational. I actually went and spoke to the high school kids personal finance class here recently.
Oh, great.
It's not taught much in schools anymore. So you want to make sure you pass on that financial literacy. As they grow into young adults, you can become more detailed with that wealth planning information, like estate strategies, succession planning, or charitable giving. The earlier each generation is prepared, the stronger the odds are that wealth will last.
Yeah. Well, and I think this is a good time to point out that if you have questions, if you need a financial plan or a plan in place for your estate or legacy planning, what you pass on, how you pass it on, what you'll have to pass on, give Ashton and the team there at Pankinen Financial a call. Ashton, how can our listeners get a hold of you?
Yeah, listeners can visit my website, PankinenFinancial.com. That's PANKONIN financial.com. Call my office at 952-873-2703. Again, that number is 952-873-2703 to discuss how we can answer your questions and address your concerns about wealth transfers, your financial strategy, or any other parts of your retirement. It's our goal to help you prepare for the retirement you've worked so hard for.
Yeah. And that's important. And again, you're offering a no charge, no obligation consultation for our listeners out there. Just call in and mention you heard about it on the radio show or the podcast. So let's talk about some solutions here. I mean, you've talked about some of the challenges. What does a successful path forward in this great wealth transfer look like?
Yeah, Tony, for many families, it's kind of a 3-part plan is key. But there's an important part is truly bringing the generational gap or bridging the generational gap. I mean, involves the younger generations in the wealth planning process itself. And that's a big shift from, again, the way you said your grandpa did it, the traditional way of doing things where you don't talk about it. It's one of the industry is finally catching up with is that we do have to share this with the younger generations.
Okay, a 3-part plan. What does that look like?
Yeah, it covers all the bases. 1, financial plan for the individual's entire life.
Yep.
2, a break the glass plan for life's emergencies.
Sure.
And then 3, a legacy plan designed for future generations. So from an individual's perspective, it's about peace of mind to ensure that if something happens, family members have the right information and access to that.
Yeah. And that makes perfect sense. I've heard that when people do inherit wealth, some of them don't always stick with the same advisor. Is that true?
Yeah. And 70% of people who inherit wealth switch advisors. And sometimes it's because the younger generation wants to do it their way. In quotations marks, I guess there. But more often it's because I didn't realize I couldn't see my air quotes that I was doing there.
You did air quotes, but then you had, radio.
But more often it's because many firms don't take the time to build relationships with their future heirs.
Yeah. Well, I'm going to give you a break, Ashton, because I did a radio show once with someone who was talking about finance, and they brought PDFs and put them up on their computer.
Okay.
It was an audio only radio show on the radio. And they were talking about the charts. And I'm like, no, they can't. No,
they can't see that.
They can't see that.
They didn't see my air quotes, but we threw them in there.
I do them anyway. Yeah. If I do air quotes a lot, and I do mean a lot, air quotes included. But really what you're talking about means not just managing the money. Then it's really about building relationships across the family. And I think it's smart if you have, for those that are older and doing retirement income planning or investments, it's important, number one, to work with a financial advisor, a financial services professional. Yep. But number two, at some point in the process, as your kids age, bring them into the fold. Have them sit down when you meet with that estate planning attorney, when you sit down with Ashton and his team, bring the kids into one of those meetings and let Ashton know, hey, I want to bring the family in and we're going to talk about our plans together and go over where we're at and what the goal is. And that can really help. I know that that's really important. And, and that's for when they reach a certain age and the circumstances, everybody's situation and family is different. But I know that would have really helped had my grandfather do that. And I mean, all his children, when, the last time he updated his will, if he had included everyone instead of just one, the executor, when you have four kids and you're only only one knows what's going on, there are going to be problems. I don't care how tight knit your family is or how much you think you love each other. My dad's family was the most loving, tight knit family ever. And now two of my dad's siblings aren't speaking to each other.
Yeah, and it's easier coming from that person while they're still alive.
Yes.
Why they planned it this way.
Yes.
So they can say, hey, this is the reason we did it this way. And it is his wish, their wishes, I guess. It's much easier than after the fact when they're reading the will and beneficiaries are getting divvied up that way. So.
Yeah. And then things that weren't spelled out would come up beforehand. Like,
correct.
Like dad told me I get his truck. Oh no, he told me I get the pickup.
Yeah.
Okay.
Or the cutting board.
I want the truck. What do you think you're getting? And that should be asked in that meeting. Like,
for sure.
Is there something in there that you think you're getting that we haven't talked about specifically addressed to you? And his pickup, you said I get that right. And then he can clarify. The truck is going to go here, or it's going to be sold and split three ways. And weird. There's an entire farm, and there's tens of thousands of dollars worth of farm equipment, but the pickup ended up being that caused so many problems. And with my grandfather on my other side, he had a whole farm. He had all these antiques. It was his. He was a Mason, so it was his Mason's ring. He had a ring. From the Masons, and he had three daughters, and they all wanted it, and that's what caused the rift. So This is just these are illustrations of why communication is key, right?
Yeah, and I mean it's huge. And again, bringing those people into the picture sooner than later. I've got a lot of multi-generational families that I work with. Where grandparents get the kids in, and then pretty soon the kids are like, well, we better bring the grandkids in too and get them started in investing. And so, again, it's important to create that relationship and talk and communicate about it ahead of time.
Yeah. I mean, it's not just about managing the money. It's also about building relationships across the family.
Correct. Yep.
Yep.
Exactly.
So what's next?
Yeah. And so, 52% of high net worth individuals want holistic services, up from just 29% in 2018. And that's a major shift. It's good news for families because by connecting with the children and grandchildren, we can use the evolution of the industry to the advantage and bridge the gap between these generations.
Yeah. And, you've covered a lot of ground already, but maybe now is a good time to hit pause and give our listeners a summary of what we're talking about here, just so we're all on the same page.
Yeah. So good idea. If you're preparing for wealth transfer, here are 9 key steps to keep in mind. Start early and define your family's goals and values. Communicate openly with family members about your plans. 3, take inventory of assets and organize essential documents. Create a solid estate plan with wills, trusts, and powers of attorney. 5, minimize taxes through strategic gifting and trusts. Choose the right people and advisors to carry out your plan. 7, educate and prepare your heirs. You also want to plan for special circumstances like family business or international issues. And then 9, you want to make sure you review and update your plan regularly because things do change.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Things are always changing, aren't they?
Yeah.
Yeah. And that's a strong checklist. But it also sounds like, hey, success isn't just about paperwork. It's about people.
You nailed it, Tony. Helping younger generations see the value of wealth management is critical. A personalized, tangible plan does more than preserve wealth. It also empowers the heirs. Think of a Gen Zer saving for the first car or home, or millennial looking for a cautious investment strategy. These are experiences that can help them prepare for bigger responsibilities later on when this big wealth transfer happens.
Yeah. And meanwhile, the wealth management industry itself is evolving to meet those needs. And I know you work closely with your clients and their families to help them with this when they need it.
Yeah, that's spot on, Tony. Wealth transfer is happening at the same time the industry is shifting toward more holistic, family-focused services. And families should lean into that shift because the industry is already there. So now I'd like to push our conversation about wealth transfer forward by considering another Kiplinger article. Wealth transfer is about more than just money.
Yeah, and almost everything I've read or heard about the great wealth transfer points to the same stat. Baby boomers and the silent generation are expected to transfer, like you had mentioned earlier, about $84 trillion in assets by 2445. 84 trillion with a T. That's real money even to you, Ashton.
Correct. Yeah.
I mean, and more than 72 trillion of that will go directly to their heirs. I mean, that's a tidal wave of money out there.
It is, Tony. But here's something important. How the ultra wealthy think about wealth just doesn't affect their heirs. It often shapes the way the rest of society thinks too. So think about it. Things that were once luxuries for the rich, like electricity, indoor plumbing, or even refrigeration, are now part of everyday life. The perspectives of the ultra wealthy are eventually filtering down.
Yeah. Yeah. And the way they define wealth today, air quotes, wealth, could influence how everyone else thinks about tomorrow.
Yeah. And in many ultra wealthy circles, wealth isn't just about money. There's a book, Complete Family Wealth, and the author recounts the words of a wise grandmother who said, "Our family has always been rich, and sometimes we've had money." And that really captures it, Tony. True wealth lies in overall well-being of a family, in building a flourishing family unit, not just a bigger balance sheet.
I love that quote, and I love that perspective. Our family has always been rich, and sometimes we've even had money. But I imagine people listening might be wondering, hey, how do you actually apply this idea to your own family?
Yeah, that's the key question. There's a framework called the 5 Forms of Family Capital. We'll adapt it here in something families all kinds can use. A practical way to think about it is wealth transfer beyond dollars and cents. So the article shares great insights from organizations like Ultra High Net Worth Institute, and an approach like Wealth 3.4 to embrace this broader view.
Yeah. Yeah. So we're talking here about a more complete definition of wealth. What are these 5 forms? Let's jump into that and look at the 5 forms of capital from that Kiplinger article, Wealth Transfer.
Yeah. First is cultural capital, which is sometimes called spiritual capital. And this reflects your family's shared vision, your purpose, your values, and your roles. So on the simple side, you can order some pizza, grab a scratch sheet of paper, and dedicate a Friday night to writing kind of a family vision. And don't worry about perfection. You just want to get started with it. And then if you're looking on the bigger side, you could even arrange a family retreat with an outside facilitator of it, just depending on how deep into it you want to get.
Yeah. Well, that's the definition of why for the family and even how to get started. What's next?
Next is human capital, which promotes the physical and mental health of family members. So it's an easy, inexpensive step. Take a family walk or a hike. No phones allowed except for one for emergencies. It's quality time and healthy time. And then if you want to go further, you can sign up for fitness classes together, yoga, spin, kickboxing. And if a family elder can sponsor it, that's a powerful way to show that health is a real value for the family.
Yep. I love that. Health is a part of wealth. So what's the third form we're looking at?
Yeah, that's social capital, which is strengthening relationships and your ability to make decisions together. So economical, you want to start a family book club or movie night where everyone gets a turn choosing. That kind of helps get some togetherness. And then generous, have a virtual family game night. Playful humans is a way to do it. And 4 to 6 weeks out plan it 4 to 6 weeks out on a weekday so that you can get it on the calendar because everybody's busy. So you want to make sure you get that on there as well.
Yeah, I think that's really important. Well, hey, a great show today, Ashton, but unfortunately we're out of time. So before we go, let our listeners know how they can get a hold of you and set up that consultation or ask you questions.
Yeah, the best way is to give our office a call, 952-873-2703. Again, that number is 952-873-2703, or visit us online at pankinenfinancial.com. That's PANKONIN financial.com.
All right. Well, thank you so much for all the great information today. We covered a lot about the great wealth transfer and what it might mean for you and your family. Listeners, thanks for tuning in. That does it for today's episode of the Pankinen Financial Perspective.
Thank you for joining us for Pankinen Financial Perspective. Don't head into retirement without a plan for both your finances and your health. For more information, contact Ashton Pankinen at Pankinen Financial Group at 952-873-2703 or visit pankinenfinancialgroup.com. Join us again soon for another episode of Pankinen Financial Perspective. Advisory services are offered by Ashton Pankinen LLC DBA Pankinen Financial Group, an investment advisor in the state of Minnesota.
All matters discussed during the show are for informational purposes only. Each individual situation may vary, and the opinions expressed here may not apply to everyone. Materials presented are believed to be from reliable sources, and no representations can be made as to its accuracy. All ideas and information should be discussed in detail with one of our qualified representatives prior to implementation. We are not affiliated with or endorsed by the Social Security Administration, the Federal Medicare Program, or any other government agency. Calling this number will direct you to a licensed sales agent.